Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is day 2 out of 50 of our SAT Math Prep series. And just a little reminder of the 4 sections of the SAT Math. We have Algebra, Advanced Math, Problem Solving and Data Analysis, and lastly, Geometry and Trigonometry. Yesterday we did Algebra, and today we're going to be doing Advanced Math. We'll tackle about 5 problems because these are shorter. Okay, a rectangle has a length that is 15 times its width. The function y equals 15w times w represents this situation, where y is the area in square feet of the rectangle and y is greater than 0. Which of the following is the best interpretation of 15w in this context? So we see 15w in our equation here, and if we look at the first part of this question, it verbatim tells us what is going on. A rectangle has a length that is 15 times its width. So here, W represents the width. So 15W is equal to the length, and W is just equal to, here, let me write it out, the width. And then we know that area is equal to length times width. So 15W here would be our length. And whenever we're thinking of length or width, it's only feet, not square feet. Square feet is the units for area. So if we look at our first answer choice, the length of the rectangle in feet, that's what we just said. And then we'll just go through the other ones to check the area of the rectangle in square feet. So we know it's not the area, but square feet does correspond to square feet, the units. The difference between the length and the width of the rectangle in feet, no, there's no subtraction. Difference would mean subtraction. And then we have the width of the rectangle in feet. No, it's the length. Okay. That one's pretty straightforward. Looking at our next problem. So we have this equation. The given equation relates the distinct positive numbers v, w, and x. Which equation correctly expresses w in terms of v and x? So whenever it says expresses w, you want to find that variable and move it to set the equation equal to that variable. So for example here, I'm going to write out the equation again because remember that you guys are taking this online and you're not going to have the ability to write on the screen. You're going to have to do it all on paper if you need work. So we have v equals negative w over 150x. We're isolating this variable. So we start obviously by moving this to the other side. So 150x times v is equal to negative w, and then get rid of the negative, so we have w is equal to negative 150x times v. And then let's just make this look a little cleaner. And then looking at our answer choices, we have A, w equals negative 150 vx, and that's the same as our answer. We just had it in a different order, but same thing. Another quick and easy problem. Looking at our third problem, a system of equations consists of a quadratic equation and a linear equation. The equations in the system are graphed in the xy plane above. How many solutions does the system have? So whenever it says solutions, this just means, how many times does the graph, do the two lines or the two y lines intersect? So let's say the quadratic one is one line, the linear is one line. Not let's say, that's what it is. How many times do these intersect? How many solutions does the system of equations have? Well, we see it intersects at 2 points, so literally it's just 2. And that would be your answer. How just analyze the graph, and yeah. Okay, next problem. If xy is a solution to the system of equations above, which of the following could be the value of x? So in a system of equations, remember yesterday we had one way of tackling it where it was x plus 1 equals y and x squared plus x is equal to y. Well, when both of the equations are set equal to the same thing over here, we can just set them equal to each other. So instead of adding them like that, like we did yesterday, and then solving for a variable, by canceling out, we can just set them equal to each other. So ignore this. This is a simpler method. So we have x squared, and then we move this x over, they cancel out, and then we have 1 left on this side. So looking at this, we have x is equal to plus or minus square root of 1. Because whenever we take the square root, it's always plus or minus, two solutions. But if it was, for example, 1 equals x to the 3, then it would be x equals cubed root of 1, which is equal to 1. It wouldn't be plus or minus. So whenever it's an odd root, like root 5, root 7, ignore this, root 5, root 7, or root 9, it's always going to be just equal to that value, one value. If we're taking just the square root of 1, for example, but if it was an odd, like square root of, wait, let me organize this a little, square root of 2, square root of 4, square root of 6, just taking the square root of 1 of each, it would be plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1, plus or minus 1, if that makes anything clearer. Okay, and then, so here our answers are plus or minus 1, so we have x equals -1 and 1. And it says, which of the following could be a value of x? So this alludes to how there could be multiple values, but just choose one that matches with what we have. And as we see, -1, -1. Okay, moving on to the next problem. If p equals 3x plus 4 and v equals x plus 5, which of the following is equivalent to pv minus 2p plus v? So always start by writing your problem out. And now we have these values for p and v. And looking at our answer choices, we only have constants and x values. We don't have p's and v's, so we have to get rid of these by plugging in their respective values. So p, we're going to plug in p, and that's 3x plus 4. Then we're going to plug in v over here, and we have x plus 5. And then we have minus 2, and then we plug in p again, 3x plus 4, and then we're going to add v over here, which is just x plus 5. So now, distributive property, we're going to FOIL. So we're going to do 3x times x, 3x squared, and then 3x times 5 plus 15x. And then we're going to do 4 times x plus 4x, and then 4 times 5 plus 20. And let's bracket this so we don't get confused with the other stuff. Then we're going to tackle this over here, -2 times 3x, and then minus 8. And then over here we just have plus x plus 5. So this is a lot to digest right here, so just look at the exponents, go greatest to smallest. We have 3x squared, that's the first one. We only have one of those, so we write that down here. Now we look at the x's, 15x plus 4x is 19x, minus 6x is 13x, plus x is 14x. cross all of these out. You should really cross them out as you're going. And then we have the constants. Plus 20 minus 8 is 12, plus 5 is 17. And then that's our simplified expression of this over here. So looking at our answers, that matches up with B. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Those were the 5 problems we tackled today. If this helped you, please consider subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys for the next day in the series.